Okay, welcome. So we're going to look at section 8.3, which is page 147. And this is part of your homework as well tonight. So page 147. And by the way, this will tell you where to look up your homework every night. And we did discuss the fact that you have the books now at school. That's great, but it also means that if you have access to all of these files, which you will, you may be able to consider and arrange that you leave your books at school. Okay, so let's work on the example now. And just before I do that, I want to jump over and look at some situations that really help us understand what we're studying right now. So this spinner here is a random event with different types of outcome. Let's look at the outcome in this case. Okay, a light shade of green. There's only one outcome, type of outcome, which is color. And we are seeing that it's quite unpredictable, but you can maybe guess that pink was going to come up more often than not because it has a bigger angle. Okay, and we can exaggerate the size of how likely pink is. So it's almost certain to come up, almost, but not definite to come up. Okay, so what maths we're doing today will not work for this situation. You cannot just go say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 colors. There's a chance of 1/6 of pink coming up. That is absolutely not true. If you have a spinner, it doesn't matter how many sections you have. If you use that number in the denominator of your calculations, and there were some complaints today in class about the colors. Apologies, we don't like the colors, but we're going to have to live with them. They're very harsh colors, yes, but we're not talking about that. Let's spin it, and let's see. Do we either get red or green as an outcome, as a random outcome? And I checked it, but obviously I don't have to stop it myself. That would take away the randomness. So my criticism of this app is that it's very slow. We got a green, and I don't like this app because it's just too slow to wait for the outcome. So I'm not going to use that anymore. Here's the drawing of a card from a shuffled standard deck. Okay, you can look at two aspects here: the rank or the suite. Indeed, you could look at color, but that's independent. That's not independent of rank. Okay, but there are equal number of fives of different. There are equal number of fives as there are 6s, 7s, and 8s, and that's why this would be suitable for the maths we're doing today. Okay, and then you have die. Okay, now this is a nice app because I can bring I can just have one die and I can bring it up to 3 dice. Okay, so let's throw a dice. It isn't really spinning a dice. That's not what we say. We throw a die. Okay, and even though I can stop, I didn't know where I was going to stop, so there isn't any bias because of that. So spin and stop. I got a 3. Spin and stop. I got a 5. Well, there are 6 die face, and each one is equally likely. Okay, so now we get into today's lesson, and we'll work out what's the probability of A. Now, the first thing I want to do is say, the formality of it is the probability of an event which is described. For example, what's the probability of A? Is equal to, it's going to be a word equation, it's a fraction. We take the number of events, count them, over the number of, you guessed it, outcomes. We spent a few days talking about outcomes. Okay, so the probability of A, there are 3 A's, there are 3 events, is 3 divided by, there are 13 letters. Okay, let's look at another one. We won't do them all. The probability of an O the description of the event goes in the bracket, is equal to, now please don't leave these out, that's why I've asked you to look at the video in advance. The probability of O, there is 1 O and there are 13. Now let's look at something more compounded. An L or an O. So let's move along counting L's and O's. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the probability of an L or O is equal to 4 over 13. So we start the work. Your homework is the odd number questions as always. I'll do the even number questions. Probability of getting a 6 in the first one is 1 over 4. There are 4 quartets and there's one of them that's a 6. The probability of getting a 6 in the second one, there are 2 over 4, and you must reduce that fraction to a half to get full marks. And then the probability of getting a 6 in the last one is 1 over 4, where we think to ourselves, you know what, that 2 could have been cut in 2. Do the number, that's for homework tonight, question 3. I go on to question 4. What's the probability, so what's the probability of getting a square? Probability, you can be symbolic here. Probability of a square equals 3 squares. Now be careful because I see yellows, but I think it's 3 squares. And there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 9 and 1 is 10. Okay, what's the probability of getting a triangle? Count the triangles, they're all green, aren't they? 4 over 10. Number of outcomes hasn't changed. What's the probability of getting a square or a triangle? Well, it's no surprise that that's 7 over 10. Okay, because triangles and squares are independent of each other. They're quite different. Okay. The probability of getting an odd number is, we count the events. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 over 10, which is 3 over 5. Probability of a 2-digit number. Equals. Okay, so we have to go count them. 12, 14, and 11. There's 3 of them. Over 14. 5 is for you for homework. 6 I'll do now quickly. So we're looking for the outcome of 4. So mathematically I'll write that as the probability of 4 in the first is 1 over 6. The probability of 4 in the second, we look for 4s. Equals 3. We have to count them all, which is 8. And the probability of 4 in the next one, number of events, 4s. Number of outcomes, 5. And none of them reduce. You do 7 for homework, I do 8. We're into our standard deck of cards that we spoke about in class. So we have sweets. It's described to you there. What is the probability the card chosen will be a 7? The first of these cards is called, yeah, we don't understand. From 13 cards shown, what is the chance of getting a 7? Okay, well the total number of outcomes is 13. So because they're not using a standard deck, they're only using the hearts. So the probability of a 7 is equal to 1 over 13. The probability of an ace is equal to 1 over 13. The probability of a picture card is equal to 3 because you've Jack, Queen, King. They're all picture cards. Ace, not a picture card. 3 over 13. The probability of a heart is 1. The probability of a spade that's not a spade equals 0. a 9 or a 10, the probability of a 9 or a 10 is 2 over 30. Okay, and I've only one question to do, I think, for you. No, I have two, but I think I'll leave it at that because that's quite instructional. I'll make another video later. Okay, so you have to do all the odd number questions for homework, and the best of luck.